The night smelled of smoke and blood. Fires lit the skyline of Harran like torches on a battlefield, their glow casting twisted shadows across the ruins of a city already half devoured by the infected. Rick Grimes felt the weight of every step, his boots crunching over broken glass and blackened debris, as if each shard were a reminder that Harran had been shattered long before he arrived. But this night was not about survival. This was war. Beside him, Kyle Crane moved with the silent determination of a man who had long since accepted death as an everyday companion. Together they pushed forward through the ruins, not as lone survivors, but as commanders of a final march against the monster who ruled the city, Rais. The infected were restless, stirred by the chaos. Their shrieks echoed through the gutted streets, clawing at the night air with a sound that seemed more feral than human. Rick raised his weapon as shapes lunged from the dark, twisted bodies with glazed eyes and gnashing teeth, their movements unnervingly quick. He did not hesitate. Gunfire shattered the night, each shot precise, a grim echo of all the years he had spent pulling triggers in worlds gone mad. Crane vaulted over a wrecked car, blades flashing in rhythmic arcs, cutting down anything that dared to block their path. Together, they carved a trail toward Rais's fortress, not just through flesh and fire, but through fear itself, each heartbeat louder than the gunfire. The deeper they went into Harran's core, the more the city seemed to close in around them. Streets narrowed into twisted corridors of rubble and ash, and the sounds of combat rose like a tide. Survivors rallied to their cause, desperate men and women who had lived under Rais's cruelty for too long. They followed Rick and Crane through the ruins, clinging to hope, wielding makeshift weapons, their eyes haunted but burning with something sharper than fear. Every building seemed alive with danger, shadows moving across shattered walls, the air thick with the rancid stink of decay. Rick moved like a predator, scanning every corner, guiding the survivors forward with silent gestures, his mind locked in the rhythm of survival and command. Rais's men struck in waves, armored and armed, their cruelty written on every scar and sneer. Bullets whistled through the dark as the survivors scattered for cover. Rick stood tall amidst the chaos, returning fire with unflinching precision, his face hard and unyielding, as though carved from stone. Crane struck from above, using Harran's rooftops as his hunting ground, dropping into the enemy ranks like a blade falling from the sky. Blood pooled in the streets, infected corpses tangled with those of Rais's soldiers, the line between predator and prey blurring until the city itself seemed to breathe death. The fortress loomed ahead, an abandoned high-rise that Rais had twisted into a kingdom of cruelty. Its walls burned with floodlights, its entrances bristling with guards, and its halls echoing with the screams of those who had resisted him. Rick paused at the threshold, his chest heaving, sweat cutting trails through the dust on his face. He knew this was the end game, the place where survival itself would be put to trial. Crane landed beside him, silent but determined, and together they pressed into the belly of the beast. Inside, the air reeked of iron and smoke. Every floor was a labyrinth of traps and ambushes. Survivors fell beside Rick, their cries swallowed by the roar of gunfire and the snarls of infected let loose as living weapons. Rick fought with a cold, merciless efficiency, his mind stripped down to instinct, his sheriff's badge long forgotten, replaced by the pure will to destroy the monster at the top. The higher they climbed, the narrower the halls became, until the fighting blurred into a nightmare of flashing steel, cracking bones, and bodies tumbling into the dark below. The final ascent was a slaughter. Ray's most loyal men lined the stairwells, fanatics who fought like rabid dogs, their eyes wild with fear and devotion. Rick led the charge, battered but relentless, each swing of his weapon carving through desperation itself. Crane fought like a shadow, weaving between the chaos, his movements precise and deadly. The screams of the dying rose into a chorus that shook the high-rise to its foundation. The building itself seeming to groan beneath the weight of so much bloodshed. The infected clawed at the barricades outside, drawn by the carnage, their howls joining the storm of violence within. At last, they reached the rooftop, where the night air was cold and sharp against bloodied skin. Fires raged below, lighting Harran in a hellish glow, while Rais stood waiting, a figure crowned in cruelty, his voice lost beneath the sound of battle. There were no speeches, no warnings, no hesitation. The fight erupted like thunder. Rick and Crane hurled themselves into the storm, one wielding firepower, the other agility. Two forces colliding against a tyrant who had ruled in blood. The rooftop became a theater of violence, every clash of steel and crack of gunfire echoing into the night sky, until the city itself seemed to hold its breath. The battle stretched on, a blur of violence, shadows, and blood. When it ended, Race's reign was shattered, his body cast down into the firestorm below, swallowed by the city he had defiled. Survivors emerged from hiding, their faces lifted toward the night sky as though waiting for dawn. Crane stood amidst the wreckage, chest heaving, eyes searching. But where Rick should have stood, there was only emptiness. No sound, no body, no blood. Only the faint impression of boots marked into the dust at the edge of the rooftop. The sheriff was gone, as if swallowed by the night itself. Harran whispered his name like a myth, a tale of a stranger who had come from nowhere to fight in their darkest hour and vanished before the dawn. Rick Grimes, the sheriff of Harran, had become more than a man. He was now a shadow stitched into the city's nightmares, a legend that might one day return when the darkness rose again.